If you go back and look at Kennedy's actual policies, at his union breaking, at his all sorts of stuff, you'll find that Reagan was like Kennedy. What happened is there's a drift. Everybody thinks the United States is drifting to the right, but there's a sense in which the United States is drifting to the left. So what was liberal in the time of Kennedy was nothing. I mean, if you look at the policies, they're abysmal. Right? They're not great. You could make a case that his successor, Lyndon Johnson, had some good liberal policies, but not so much for Kennedy. So no, I don't think so. I just think it's facts. It's the truth. We don't know what Obama would do as president. He's not president, right? So we can't say for sure. But we do know that he wouldn't be where he is. He would have been destroyed. He would have been peripheralized easily if those in power and with wealth didn't think he'd be fine. He'd be okay. It was Edwards that was knocked out, not Obama, right? And Edwards of the well, not to mention Kucinich and others. Edwards was surprising. He was a mainstream, large-scale candidate who did seem to be sincerely populist, who did seem to be sincerely progressive. I don't know that for sure, but I think so, which is why he's not running, which is why slowly but surely the media could, destroy him. Now, of course the media could have destroyed Barack Obama, particularly at the beginning when he was nothing. Harder Clinton, but probably there too. But it didn't happen. And the reason it didn't happen is because everybody with power and wealth knows that neither one of them are personally a threat. Now, there's a danger with Obama. From their point of view, the danger is that he does seem to inspire this gigantic, tumult, like Kennedy. If that tumult becomes activist and militant and informed, it's dangerous. They're betting that that's not what's going to happen, right? I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. So in other words, let's say he gets elected. And in the election campaign, it's a harsh campaign, and there's this gigantic support for him from 52% or 54% of the population, but who are really inspired and energetic. And let's say the 50% who don't vote, a lot of them are sort of thinking to themselves, oh man, maybe something's going to happen here. Okay, so he gets in. So now what happens? Does that whole group of people start to pressure him? Or does that whole group of people say, okay, Barack's president, let's be gentle and nice? Well, if they start to pressure him, if they move further, then something good has happened. If they don't, then it's a disaster, right? In other words, you can't say. It depends upon people's responses. If he gets in, and what happens is, as a result, people on the left put on kid gloves and don't dissent, don't protest, don't build a movement, then it's a disaster. If he gets in and the inspiration and everything else that he's unleashed with his words, right, moves further, then it's terrific. In the 60s, I don't know that this is true, but my own impression was, from my own experience, that Kennedy's words, this is where the analogy, right, Kennedy's words and speeches actually did take my generation and give us a certain kind of hope and a certain kind of idealism, which when it was dashed, caused a great many of us to unleash the 60s, right? So if that's what happens, great, right? If he inspires and he uplifts, and then, as I expect, he would just be another president, maybe a little bit to the left of the last, etc., but nothing major, and people get angry and people decide, wait a minute, we can get more, and then great. If they go home, bad. Let me add one more thing to that, which is a depressing part of that. In the 60s, when we became angry, it was because we were naive. That is to say, the movements that formed the whole tumult were largely a function of people discovering that society had lied to them. They were largely a function of people discovering injustice, discovering the war, discovering these horrors, and being horrified by them, and being so horrified by them that we were emboldened and angered, and we became active, right? That can't happen again. There's no such thing as that anymore. And the reason is because there's nothing to be surprised by. There is no revelation that is going to come along that is going to cause people to say to themselves, I've been lied to. Everybody knows they've been lied to. Everybody is totally aware that everything is abysmal. There is no, in the United States, some ridiculous percentage of the population thinks that Bush knocked down the Twin Towers. So what revelation is going to come along, right? It doesn't cause them to be leftist. It causes them to be defeatist, to feel that there's no future, right? So what I'm saying is that it's a problem. It means that if Barack Obama wins and does it with all this flowery language and rhetoric and spirit that gets uplifted and everything else, and then doesn't deliver, I fear that the effect of that will not be positive. That the effect of that will be everybody saying, oh, what was wrong with me? Why did I forget that I thought that nothing was possible? Clearly nothing is possible. And you don't go to anger, you go to depression and cynicism, right? So that says something about what we have to do, what the American left. What the American left has to do is guard against that. What we have to do is with every ounce of effort that we have, not support Obama or Clinton, but support the movement, people of goodwill, being in position to demand more, to seek more, rather than becoming despondent when not much is done. That said, I should also say, maybe for the Greek audience, I actually think some things are going to be done. Almost whoever wins, even the bombardier, but certainly with the Democrat winning. Healthcare is going to happen in the United States. That's a big deal. It has to happen. It has to happen not only because the public can't function without it anymore, but because the economy can't function without it. It must happen. And the fact that that's going to happen has some momentum associated with it. It pushes on the whole process. And I anticipate that even without the movement, in the next 4 years, we would see a significant shift toward social programs, saner relations, more humane activity in the United States. That doesn't mean fundamental principles of foreign policy change. That's different. But sort of a social democratic drift, not like Europe quite, but is built into what's happening right now, I think. And if movements can pressure it, then it can be much more than that.